Yeah.
Hello, I'm Dr. Bittiker. I'm back from our cruise to Cozumel. I don't know whether I got much tan, but I sure feel better. Okay, today we're covering our pauses, and one of the things we're going to cover today is you could call it the insular pause or the pancreas. The pancreas. The insulin, the molecule. Basically it is the thing, the hormone that moves glucose, which is your blood sugar, from your bloodstream across the cell membrane into the cells so it can create the energy that then turned into other things that make your cells do what they do. It's a source of energy. So what happens is that as people get older, this ability for it to function correctly begins to change. Probably the number one effect of insular pause or pancreas, where the pancreas doesn't work as well when we get older, is a thing called adult onset diabetes, or now type 2 diabetes mellitus. I'm not going to talk about the type 1. That's a different condition entirely. It affects mostly children, although some adults get it too, but it's just where the pancreas just completely shuts down, stops secreting insulin from the islets of Langerhans. Well, with insulin, the type of diabetes that comes along with type 2 diabetes, it's different. Diabetes mellitus type 2 is a form of diabetes that persons are afflicted with this disease. They have elevated levels of insulin, not lower like the other type, but elevated levels. But the cells of the body that rely on insulin are resistant to its action. So the receptors aren't working correctly. So actually their bodies may be pouring out much more insulin than normal, but it doesn't seem to work. Or it may be the wrong shape. The molecule may be changed or altered in some way so it doesn't fit in with the receptors on the cells and it doesn't work correctly. But you end up with a condition in which you can have high levels of insulin but low levels of glucose actually getting into the cells, and can result in a whole bunch of problems. One of the things that can occur is for instance, if you have type 2 diabetes, it's almost always associated with obesity. It's also associated with increased risk of just about every other disease you can think of. If you have type 2 diabetes, your likelihood of developing a heart attack or stroke is tripled or quadrupled from what it would be if you did not. Same thing's true with cancer and autoimmune disorders, and just about everything else you can think of, any disease you can think of, is made worse by the development of type 2 diabetes. And type 2 diabetes is almost exclusively a disease that results from our diet. In primitive societies around the world that don't eat food like we do and exercise more than we do, you don't see this disease at all. It's almost completely unknown in these societies. Now, to give you an example of how important this is, let me give you a couple numbers here to get your attention here. This is reported by a Dr. Robert Reza. He's a professor of medicine at the Mayo Clinic, president of the American Diabetes Association. He's commenting on the fact of how the incidence of adult onset diabetes, type 2 diabetes, has doubled in the last 30 years. In fact, there's other studies that show that it may have quadrupled in the last 30 or 40 years. Got that right? Now, as I said on my radio show before multiple times, this increase in type 2 diabetes is a mirror image of our increase in obesity. You see 3 or 4 times as many obese people now as you saw 30 or 40 years ago, and there's 3 or 4 times as much adult onset diabetes. Do you think there's a connection? Well, obviously there's a connection. And so what's causing one is causing the other. So now understand this is that let me see here, I'll give you some, well, again, this is something that I mentioned before in the radio program, in that this onset of adult onset diabetes increases all other diseases. This is why my generation, the baby boomers, is going to wipe out the healthcare system, particularly with the Obamacare. We're simply going to overamp it. It's just, there's not enough money to pay for our healthcare. And one of the reasons is because this stuff is self-inflicted. Well, I'm going to show you how to unself-inflict this thing and what you can do about it to help reverse this condition. Understand this, there's some big studies were done in some universities. And it's shown that with proper diet, exercise, nutritional supplementations, and some other things, not drugs, that you can get this reverse back to near normal metabolic activity of the body and reverse all the side effects, the direct effects of adult onset diabetes. You can do this with proper diet, exercise, nutritional supplements, as I recommend. And you can do this to 85 to 90% of the time. You got that kind of a probability. I didn't say it was easy, but it can be done. We do it here all the time. If you want us to do it for you, give us a call at 800-326-5838. Now, let me give you some other statistics here on this. We have a website that you can go to. It's not mine, but it's free. It's called the Primal Palate, Primalpalate. It is a paleo diet. You hear me talk about it. In fact, you go to my website, naturalhealthandyou.com, naturalhealth and ANDYOU.com. Go to that website and you'll see the video, the little bar at the top says videos. Go to the video and watch the video that I did on the paleo diet. In there, I'll give you other sources of information that you can see. The paleo diet is the original diet that humans should have been eating all along. If you're confused about what it is, it's not a bunch of cavemen sitting around in the cave eating meat and nothing else. That's not what it is at all. It's basically, it's primarily a plant-based diet with a little bit of protein thrown in. That's the actual ideal diet, in my opinion. And you got the research there to back it up. But if you do that diet, some dramatic things can happen here. Now, so what we do with our patients is, again, the primalpalate.com. Go to that website. You'll see there's all different versions of the primal diet or the paleo diet. There's the gluten-free one. There's the lectin-free one. There's various ways of doing it there. And you see that it's actually a very tasty, not that difficult to prepare diet. And it'll be the best thing you've ever done in your life. By the way, if you have any autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, myasthenia gravis, multiple sclerosis, all those conditions, read the research on the use of the primal or paleo diet on those conditions. They all get dramatically better. In fact, Dr. Swenk at University of, I think it's Oregon, did research there for years on basically what comes similar to a paleo diet for the treatment of multiple sclerosis. And he was showing how they could reverse the disease, stop it in its tracks. That's pretty significant stuff done just by diet. That research existed. There's also research that exists at the Harvard University Medical School Library, the ketogenic diet, which is basically a paleo diet. They use that to treat children with epilepsy. Got dramatically good results with it. Very safe diet. In fact, there's still some people that do that diet because they can't take the drugs. But the ketogenic diet, low carbohydrate diet, which is very similar. I mean, if you want to help your diabetes, go on the ketogenic diet that they recommended at Harvard Medical School, and you'll find out it works very, very well for diabetic patients. In fact, it sometimes works too well. If you go on a ketogenic or a primal diet or a paleo diet, they're all low carbohydrate diets, your blood sugar may drop so fast that you can get into trouble. You can get into hypoglycemia. But that's easy to fix. You know, a little bit of honey under the tongue or drink a little bit of orange juice and bring your sugar back up. But imagine that, a diabetic with low blood sugar. Well, you know, that's something you can work with. Now, I'm going to give you some other things you can do, but the diet is the biggie. Number 2 is exercise. We simply don't get enough exercise. Now, you don't have to do a lot of exercise, probably 20, 30 minutes per day. We're talking about maybe doing something like walking at a vigorous pace. I wouldn't recommend running unless your joints can take it. But just do something. Get up and move around the room. But my point is that physical activity, and it doesn't have to be extreme physical activity, just a continuous level of activity, kind of buzzing around the house or at your job or whatever. That's actually puts a lot more use of glucose than you might think. So it's diet, exercise, those are biggie. Now, nutritional-wise, here's some things you can do. We carry a supplement called GlucoFunction made by Pure Encapsulations. Go to their website, purecaps.com. Read their research on this stuff and you'll see why we recommend this. Let me give you some research on why they put this particular product together. And I'll give you a couple examples here of some of the things that are in here that really help. Let me get down to it. Okay, first of all, chromium. There's a thing called the glucose tolerance factor, and this contains chromium polynicotinate. That's the active form. It helps create the insulin molecule and actually helps the insulin receptors work better so the glucose molecule gets across the cell membrane into the cell and actually gives it the energy that it needs to get. There's a lot of research that shows that this can, at least in animal studies and in some human studies, is that once you give these people chromium, it can actually stop the disease from progressing any further. We have another one here, the vanadium. This is there's some really good research on this, the vanadium sulfate that's in here too. This stuff pretty much mimics what insulin does. It's a mineral, naturally occurring mineral. And here's a study from Metabolism, 1996, the journal Metabolism. 50 milligrams of vanadium sulfate twice per day showed a 20% reduction in average fasting glucose, which is darn near as good as the drug metformin does, and with like zero side effects. Don't need much of the vanadium sulfate to do this work either. Let me give you some other research on some of the other things that are in this particular supplement. They are the biotin. Here's one. That's one of the B complex. In fact, we have a supplement for hair. It's very good for helping to grow hair in people. Here's a study published in the Medical Hypotheses and also the Journal of Clinical Biochemistry and Nutrition, 1993, and here's the one, 1999. Again, showing that the biotin helps the liver cells to metabolize sugar much better, your glucose much better. Also, the B complex niacinamide has been shown that vitamin C potentiates the insulin molecule too. Now let's get down to a couple ones of what I call the heavy hitters here. One of them is Gimini sylvestre, and the other is cinnamon, but it's a special type of cinnamon. Basically, these in studies have been shown, actually in India, they've been shown to actually reverse type 2 diabetes there. Here's the Gimini sylvestre. Here's a study, let me pull that up here again. I'll get it on my magic computer here. This is a study from the Journal of Ethnopharmacology, 1990. Gimini sylvestre improved blood sugar control in 78% of the patients who used it. They were able to dramatically reduce their medication they were on, and almost 20% of them were able to get off their medication just by using the Gimini sylvestre. You combine that with the cinnamon, it potentiates the effect there. Also with the cinnamon, and also the bitter melon. The bitter melon, again, potentiates a lot better than that. The research from India, here it is, I'll pull it up, is, in fact, they did a study to treat type 1 diabetes in children, and if they could get to them quickly enough with the Gimini sylvestre, it was able to stop the disease from progressing on into diabetes and reverse it. That's a study coming out of India. They're already doing some very good research there. I'm not saying that the bitter melon cures type 1 diabetes. I'm not. But I'm just saying it's a study that showed that it did help dramatically, so they're doing more research on it. Here's another one out of the Journal of Ethnopharmacology. The bitter melon extract, it improved the glucose tolerance of 73% of the people that took it, which again is about as good, if not better, than you get with metformin. So my point is this, is that if your pancreas is not working correctly, your insulin molecule is not doing its job, then you might want to seriously consider diet, exercise, and the glucose function plus a good probiotic like this. Always recommend that, because those things have been shown in studies to stop the disease in its tracks and even reverse it. And you can do it too. And you lose a lot of weight if you're overweight, because most type 2 diabetics are overweight. And the low carbohydrate diet is the way to go. All right, I want to thank you for listening. You got any questions, call the 800-326-5838 number. We do this every day except Thursday, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday except Thursday. We don't do it on the weekends. We may in the future. Call 800-326-5838 number if you want to call and ask a question. And thank you for watching. Back next.
And share it.
And share it and like it with your friends, okay?